Now the shader for glass is a bit different because we are going to use transparent shader as well, and many times it does not work correctly with cell shaders. To start with, just paste the simple cell shader and try to adjust it more like our reference. Now we are going to use the geometry node cavity method to get more detail on our object. You already saw that method in basic videos. Now try to adjust it with a color ramp. I am removing others to create a glass shader for our object. I'm using a different color ramp with the same node to get more details with different values. And now I am adding them together in this shader. It looks fine, but we need transparent BSDF to make it real transparent. I am changing the blend mode to alpha blend as per our scene. Now I am using glossy shader to get more of a detail on our object. Let's add them with our shader. Now for our inside glass liquid. We are trying to use a glossy shader setup. This method is the same as before, but just different values. I think it looks fine. We need some little adjustment. I'm trying to figure out why it's not transparent. After looking closely, I found the other part of this mesh had different material, so I just removed it. Now we have to adjust our shader as well. For ice cubes I am just using those fruit shader and changing the color with help of reference. But for our scene we don't need that much of the color on our ice cubes, so I am using a hue saturation node to decrease the saturation of colors. Now we will move for our coffee cup. We will use same plate material, and for coffee we will use something different. So I am keeping this image texture and adjusting it with hue saturation node to get some better results. With the help of layer weight node I am trying to get some good gradient effects. I just want some warm effect on it, but not too much. I'm trying to use glossy BSDF for more details, but because it's a pure flat surface, it's hard to control it. Now for that upper part I am using a curve draw tool to draw curves on our surface. Now I will add some thickness on it and trying to adjust it in edit mode. I am using the same shader of melted butter for it. Now for that bottle we will use the same glass shader we just created. Changing it to alpha blend so we get some transparent effect. And adjusting the shader as we need. Now for that green liquid we are going to use the same material of butter and just paste it over it. And pick the color from the reference and adjust the material. So with hue saturation node I am just trying to control the shader strength a little. Now for our base, I'm using a wood plank PBR and removing the Principled BSDF and trying to create a simple toon shader. Because the normal node is connected to our material output, we are getting this texture over our object. So now we are going to use the base color texture for our color attributes in MixRGB with help of Hue Saturation node. We are going to adjust its color and saturation as we need. You have to experiment on it to get the desired result. With the help of Glossy BSDF, we can get some gradient effects on our object. You can add more nodes if you need, it depends on you. We are going to use those textures to add and multiply to our shader to get more detail and better results. Now I am adding Principled BSDF to get reflection on the surface. In the light prop menu, you can get a reflection plane object, and you can use it to get more reflection over your object, but you have to be accurate about its position. It should be close to your surface to get good reflections. With the help of Noise Texture Color Mode, we can overlay some pretty good colors on our surface. I think it looks nice. Now with the help of other lights, we can get pretty nice results on our base surface. Now we are going to use some passes in our scene. If you click on that drop down arrow just forward to our render mode, you can see we have lots of passes option to render them separately to control our render in the compositor. So you just saw how to view the render passes in the viewport, but to get them in the compositor, we have to enable them in passes properties and find them and click on the check marks to use them in the compositor. Keep that in mind for bloom and ambient occlusion, you have to enable them on render setting as well. And for that little plate we use the same method of solid cell shader. Now just render it by pressing F12. And now we jump to the compositor. Now as you can see we have the render passes in our render layer, which we will combine them with a mix RGB node for AO and shadows. We're using the multiply method. And for the bloom we are going to mix them. I'm using a hue saturation node to increase the exposure for our bloom pass and then mix it with our render. With bloom pass we can get some pretty nice blurriness to our render. Now we will use filter nodes with diamond shader method to increase the contrast for our edges in our render and shadows mode to increase the contrast between colors. And with soften mode, we can get rid of those jagged edges. Now we are going to move all those lights, outlines and reflection plane to a new collection named as EV and create a linked copy of our scene to set up our scene for ray tracing lighting effects. So I am turning off EV collection and creating a new collection for cycles. Lighting and adding a cube with a default material. And changing the render engine to cycles and selecting that default material in passes override drop down menu. And after that I am removing the world and adding new lights to our scene. I am adjusting it as I want. Now I am changing the lights colors to pure RGB. Now reducing the samples to 10 and in the lights path menu, removing the samples for transparent and volume. Now we go back to scene 1 composer. And now we import the cycles scene in our compositor and render it. After that we will use those light information to add effects on our scene, so with a separate RGB node, we will add those to our render. And to control the color values, we are going to use a color ramp node. We have to experiment with those values and colors to get some nice effects on our scene. Remember that this is not a linear method, so value is not that much necessary. And we are going to use some texture with texture nodes and create a new cloud texture in texture properties. We are changing grayscale to color mode and select that in our texture node. We are going to use it as overlay mode. With these methods we will get some pretty nice color overlays on our render. I'm changing the contrast to get some more good results. Let's add another texture. We are going to use blend texture with sphere mode. And duplicate the texture node and select that texture. And now we will multiply it and add a color ramp node to control it. With this we will get some nice vignette effect. We are going to use Sunbeams nodes to get light leaks or God rays in our render. With the help of lens distortion node, we will get some distortion and dispersion over our render, but do not forget to click on fit checkmark.